The Milky Way spun in silent grandeur, a cathedral of stars where empires older than humanity's earliest civilizations cast long shadows across the void. For centuries, Earth had been a faint afterthought in this galactic sprawl, an ambitious newcomer surrounded by ancient powers who measured progress in millennia, not decades. Out there, humanity's pride meant little. Its determination meant even less. Across the galactic commons, Earth was a running joke. The Varick Dominion called humans engineers of toys. The Zealer Compact claimed humans were barely post-tribal. Even the merchant guilds, normally apathetic to politics, mocked Earth's fledgling fleets and fragile diplomacy. No one feared humanity. No one respected them. And that indifference had become dangerous. Earth, however, had been watching, listening, learning, and building. Deep beneath Antarctica's frozen crust, a vast complex hummed with energy. Clean, white corridors stretched through ancient rock, every surface lit with a faint blue glow. In the heart of this labyrinth stood a chamber that was unlike anything else on the planet, triangular pillars supporting a spherical containment array, cables pulsing with violet light. The air tasted metallic. Gravity felt slightly off, bending subtly around the core. This was Project Helios. Dr. Kyra Mendez stood before the shimmering reactor sphere, her dark hair tied back, eyes sharp behind protective lenses. She had spent 10 years shaping the impossible, the world's first microsingularity engine. A weapon capable of shaping space-time itself. One controlled burst from the Helios cannon could collapse a starship's hull as if crushing tin foil between fingers. No one beyond Earth suspected it existed. Only one craft mounted the prototype. Only one pilot had survived the simulations required to wield it. Stability at 94%. An engineer called out. Singularity chamber holding. Kyra exhaled. Weeks of sleepless nights hung under her eyes, but the reactor's steady glow gave her a rare flicker of relief. Good, she said. Keep it sealed. The commander's en route. Up above, orbiting far from the cold facility, Captain Ryland Cross walked the dim corridor of Aegis 9 Defense Station. The narrow passage vibrated softly with the hum of shield generators preparing for high alert. Ryland's boots fell in measured steps, his expression calm despite the tension rising through the station. He had not slept in 20 hours. That didn't matter. The summons from Earth Defense Command had been brief and severe. Incoming threat. Report immediately. Ryland reached the command deck and found General Aria Lawson waiting near the holographic table. Her uniform bore the scars of decades spent preparing Earth for the day its luck would run out. Torn shoulder threads, faded mission clasp, eyes carved with resolve. Captain, Lawson said, nodding. We've reached the moment we feared. Ryland stepped closer. What's approaching? Her jaw tightened. A Varick Dominion cruiser. Direct route. No communication. No hesitation. A cold sensation slid down his spine. How long until it enters firing range? 40 minutes. Ryland let out a slow breath. The Dominion didn't send lone cruisers for intimidation. They sent them to kill. Lawson expanded the holomap. The cruiser's silhouette dominated the display, long, spined, armored in layered plates. Its engines pulsed with a red glow that looked like molten veins. In any direct engagement, Lawson said, we lose. Ryland studied the geometry of the alien vessel. He knew its specifications by heart. Dominion war doctrine favored overwhelming firepower, brutal boarding tactics, and total annihilation of resistance. Their philosophy, leave no survivors to rebuild. He looked up. You want me to use Helios? We don't have another choice. Ryland's thoughts drifted, unbidden, to New Horizon Colony. He remembered flames crawling through the atmosphere as Dominion raiders torched the settlement. He remembered the silence after the screams ended. The charred sky. The absence where his family should have been. That memory lived inside him like a star's gravitational pull, inescapable, shaping his every orbit. He straightened. I'll do it. Lawson placed a hand on the table, her expression softening slightly. I know the burden this puts on you. But Earth cannot afford hesitation. He nodded. Then there will be none. Far across the void, on the Varric Dominion cruiser's bridge, High Warlord Scar Vrathlin observed the projection of Earth's system with detached amusement. His armor, etched with the victories of 39 conquered species, glinted beneath the crimson lighting. His eyes, golden and sharp, focused on the blue sphere below. A bridge officer bowed. Warlord, our scans detect minimal resistance. Human defense grid is inefficient. Their fleet is small and unsophisticated. Scar's lips curved slightly. As expected. Apes with engines. Another officer hesitated. Long-range sweeps show an unusual energy signature near their defense station. Explain. Unknown. Confined to a small craft. Power levels inconsistent with their documented technology. Scar gave a low, amused growl. Let them swing whatever primitive weapon they believe will stop us. We will crush their hope first. He turned his gaze back to Earth. This world falls today. Back on Aegis 9, tension crackled through the air. Alarms flashed red across the hangar as pilots scrambled to launch conventional fighters. Crew members shouted coordinates and emergency updates. The polished black hull of the Helios prototype sat at the center of the bay like a dormant beast, sleek, angular, its singularity chamber pulsating with muted fire. Rylan approached the craft slowly. Lights reflected off its armored panels, painting streaks across his visor. To others, the fighter looked dangerous. To him, it felt alive. Kyra appeared at his side carrying her datapad. She's stable, she said softly. The energy readings are strong. But remember, the cannon has never been fired at a moving target. The singularity may react unpredictably. Rylan gave a small smile. So don't miss. Kyra didn't smile back. Rylan, if the chamber destabilizes. I know the risk. She exhaled. Then, good luck. As she stepped away, Rylan placed a gloved hand on the hull. The warmth beneath the metal vibrated through his palm. This was more than a machine. It was humanity's last lifeline. He climbed into the cockpit. The canopy sealed around him with a pressurized hiss. Lights flickered alive across the controls as the singularity chamber responded to his biometrics. Through the glass, he saw the stars. Lawson's voice came through the calm. Captain Cross, you launch in 60 seconds. The Dominion vessel will be in orbit in 18. Your objective is simple, stop it. Rylan gripped the controls. Understood. He felt the fighter tilt as the launch rail activated. Outside, the hangar doors opened, revealing the endless black. He inhaled slowly. For Earth, he whispered. The rail catapulted him into space. The battle for humanity had begun. The darkness of space swallowed the Helios fighter the moment it cleared the launch rail. Captain Rylan Cross felt the magnetic acceleration fade as the craft stabilized, its engines humming with contained intensity. The stars no longer looked serene, they shimmered like distant witnesses waiting to decide whether humanity lived or died. Telemetry locked. Course plotted, Aegis 9 announced. Dominion cruiser expected in 12 minutes. Rylan flexed his fingers around the flight sticks. Copy. Bring targeting overlays up. A lattice of holographic markers flickered across his visor, tracing the trajectory of the incoming threat. The Dominion cruiser cut through space like a leviathan, massive, armored, its red engines pulsing with predatory rhythm. General Lawson's voice entered his headset. Rylan, listen carefully. You'll be outnumbered before you reach optimal firing distance. Don't engage the fighters unless you must. Save Helios for the cruiser. Understood. And Captain. Her tone softened. Come back. He didn't respond. There wasn't room for promises. Inside the Dominion warship, High Warlord Scar Vrathlin examined the tactical display with a mixture of boredom and contempt. The lone human fighter, tiny and angular, arced closer to his formation. A single craft approaches, a bridge officer announced. Minimal threat. Scar nodded. Let it come. Destroy it. Make an example. He leaned back, claws tapping the armrest. The galaxy admired power, not patience. Once Earth fell, the remaining human colonies would surrender before a single shot reached them. Efficiency through terror, that was the Dominion way. Dispatch 20 interceptors, Scar ordered. Toy or not, I wish no interruptions. The officer bowed and relayed the command. Scar's gaze lingered on Earth. Soon, its light would dim. Ryland saw the interceptors long before they reached weapon range. They emerged as faint glints, then grew into agile, crescent-shaped hunters. Their formation tightened into a spearhead. Aegis 9, visual on enemy fighters, he reported. Multiple. Fast. Don't take them head on, Lawson replied. Your speed is your only advantage. Copy that. Ryland angled the Helios fighter into a descending spiral. The interceptors responded immediately, sweeping around in a mirror pattern to cut off his escape. They moved like coordinated limbs of a single organism, disciplined, ruthless. Plasma beams flashed past his hull. Ryland banked hard. They're firing. Defensive pattern Delta, Lawson instructed. But he was already executing it. The Helios fighter dove beneath the formation, thrusters cutting power at just the right moment to slip under their converging fire. A trio of beams collided behind him, illuminating the void with a violent burst. The Dominion fighters adjusted instantly, curving back for pursuit. Ryland exhaled slowly. They were skilled. Predictable, but skilled. He opened a channel. All right, let's dance. He pulled into a sharp climb. The interceptors followed, accelerating with unnerving precision. Plasma bolts streaked past him, leaving brief trails of ionized gas. A buzzing alarm erupted across his HUD. Shields at 68%, the onboard AI warned. Ryland gritted his teeth. Helios charge status. Standby mode. Weapon not primed. He needed distance. A clean line. And time, something the Dominion refused to give. Ryland accelerated toward the shadow of the cruiser. As he neared the immense vessel, its hull filled his vision, obsidian metal marked with crimson veins. Gun ports rotated toward him with cold intent. He rolled beneath the cruiser's dorsal plating. The ship's gravitational wake tugged at his craft, pulling the fighter dangerously close. Alarms rang again. Proximity alert. I notice, Ryland muttered. The interceptors closed in behind him, boxed by the cruiser's overlapping shield arcs. Ryland smirked. Let's use that. He punched the thrusters and skimmed along the cruiser's shield barrier. Energy crackled around him as the Helios fighter hugged the shimmering surface. The Dominion interceptors didn't adjust in time. 3 slammed into the shield, dissolving in flashes of molten debris. Ryland didn't watch them go. He needed space to charge the Helios cannon. He veered into open void, the cruiser falling behind him. Aegis 9, he said. I'm attempting charge cycle. Ryland, be cautious, Lawson warned. 18 seconds exposed. I know. He steadied the fighter, leveled its wings, and initiated the sequence. Helios charging. Do not maneuver, the AI said. The cockpit dimmed as energy routed to the chamber. Violet light radiated behind him. Ryland's pulse synchronized with the weapon's rhythmic hum. 17 seconds. The remaining interceptors broke formation and accelerated toward him. 16 seconds. Come on, he breathed. 15 seconds. The fighters fanned out, preparing to strike from multiple vectors. 14 seconds. A plasma bolt grazed his wing, shaking the cockpit violently. Charge stability at 80%, the AI announced. 13 seconds. Another volley streaked toward him. Ryland raised the nose slightly, absorbing the hit across his shield. 12 seconds. The weapon geometry flickered. The AI's tone shifted. Singularity destabilizing. Ryland's heart dropped. Can you correct? Correction requires reset protocol. How long? 6 seconds. That 6 seconds might as well have been 6 centuries. Resetting mid-combat had never been attempted. Another alarm screamed. Shields at 40%. Rylan made his decision instantly. Do it. Start the reset. Warning, probability of pilot fatality is. Do it. A surge of distortion rippled through the cockpit. The chamber behind him pulsed violently as if something inside clawed at the boundaries of reality. Colors shifted. Lines blurred. The hull groaned. Rylan clenched his jaw. Hold together. A plasma beam tore past the canopy, missing by inches. 5 seconds. 4. The interceptors tightened the noose, preparing a synchronized strike. 3. Rylan locked onto the cruiser's silhouette ahead. 2. 1. The chamber snapped into alignment. The distortion faded. Helios was stable again. Rylan slammed the throttle. The fighter surged forward, creating a burst of acceleration so intense it pinned him to his seat. The interceptor struggled to match the sudden speed. He darted along the cruiser's underbelly, using its own gravitational field to slingshot upward. Fighters overshot the turn and lost formation, giving him a brief window of freedom. Aegis 9, Helios is ready. Lawson spoke with steady urgency. Line up the shot. Make it count. Rylan steadied the craft and angled toward the cruiser's central axis. Begin final charge, he ordered. The cockpit darkened once more. Lines of energy converged toward the cannon. The air seemed to fold inwards. The countdown began. 18. 17. 16. The cruiser's weapons pivoted toward him, preparing a kill shot. He didn't blink. 15. 14. The chamber brightened. 13. 12. He whispered to himself, voice low but unwavering. This ends now. The energy spike climbed. 10. 9. The cruiser fired. A beam of incandescent plasma streaked toward him. 8. 7. 6. Rylan held course. 5. The beam neared. 4. 3. 2. The chamber reached critical mass. 1. Helios ready, the AI said. Rylan gripped the trigger. The Dominion plasma beam rushed toward Rylan Cross like a streak of white fire. It tore through the void in a straight, merciless line, bright enough to distort the edges of his vision. His cockpit shook from the proximity alone, heat blooming across the hull. Time stretched thin, as if the universe held its breath. Rylan pressed the trigger. For an instant, everything fell silent. The cockpit lights dimmed as power funneled through the Helios chamber. The air grew heavy, bending around a point behind him where gravity itself twisted. The chamber glowed with a deep violet radiance, pulsing like a star trapped inside a shell. A sphere of darkness, perfect and smooth, formed at the cannon's mouth. No light escaped it. No sound accompanied it. A singularity breathed. Rylan held the fighter steady as the Dominion beam passed overhead by inches. The shockwave rattled his controls, but he didn't flinch. He had no space for fear. Only purpose. Helios firing, the AI confirmed. The singularity sphere accelerated forward, stretching into a razor-thin beam that lanced across space. No flash. No thunder. Just a quiet distortion rippling outward in a line so straight it looked carved by a divine hand. The beam struck the Dominion cruiser. The effect was instantaneous. The cruiser's armored hull didn't explode, it folded. Plates of obsidian metal crumpled inward as if a colossal invisible fist squeezed the entire vessel. Decks compressed into shards. Weapons arrays disappeared into collapsing spirals of light. The ship's core buckled and folded again, compressing into a tight sphere the size of a shuttle. Inside the Dominion bridge, chaos erupted. Alarms blared. Panels shorted out. Gravity fluctuated violently. High Warlord Scarvrathan rose from his command throne, claws gripping the armrests. "What is this?" he roared. "Report!" The bridge shook so violently that several officers fell. "A gravitational collapse!" shouted a technician. "Localized singularity! Origin point, human fighter!" Scar stared at the viewport where space bent around the imploding vessel. "Impossible! No world can wield that power!" Another quake tore through the ship. Scar's final sight was the hull folding in on itself, shadows stretching, lights vanishing, the universe narrowing into a single point. Then nothing. The Dominion cruiser collapsed into a glowing speck of compressed matter. The speck flared once and dissolved. Silence followed. The shock waves swept across the area, scattering debris and sending waves of distortion through Ryland's fighter. His cockpit shook violently. Alarm screamed. Structural strain critical, the AI warned. Stabilizing systems. Ryland fought to keep control, breath ragged. His vision blurred, but he held on to consciousness. The cruiser's final burst of energy hit him like turbulence from a collapsing storm. The fighter shuddered, then steadied. The void became calm again. Ryland's breathing slowed. Aegis 9, target eliminated. For a moment, no one replied. Then the calm erupted with disbelief, cheers, and frantic voices layered over each other. Lawson's voice broke through, firm but shaken. Ryland, confirm. The cruiser is gone? Gone, he said. Completely. Static crackled, then the general exhaled, a sound of pure relief. You just saved 8 billion people. He leaned back in his seat, staring at the stars. Humanity did. Below him, Earth's distant blue sphere glowed quietly, unaware of the moment history changed. The Dominion interceptors, those that hadn't been obliterated by the shockwave, hesitated. Their formation wavered. They scanned for their cruiser's IFF signal and found none. In its place, empty space charged with lingering gravitational distortions. Ryland watched them. The fighters drifted like confused animals suddenly deprived of their alpha. Aegis 9, enemy formation is breaking. Lawson responded. Hold position. Reinforcements en route. The Dominion pilots began retreating in scattered directions. Their discipline dissolved. They fled toward deep space without coordination, abandoning the mission entirely. Unbelievable, Ryland muttered. It appears you have altered their strategic calculations, B.I. said dryly. He couldn't help a faint smile. Good. The exhaustion hit him like a wave. The adrenaline that had carried him through the battle drained away, leaving his limbs heavy. He forced himself upright. He still had to land. Requesting docking vector, he said. Transmitting coordinates now, Aegis 9 replied. Ryland angled the battered fighter toward Earth. The hull hissed and groaned with every adjustment, scorched and scarred. The singularity chamber glowed faintly, stabilizing after its violent discharge. In the orbital hangar, engineers and soldiers raced to meet him. Emergency teams assembled near the landing ramp as his fighter descended on shaky thrusters. The landing gear touched down with a jarring thud. Ryland popped the canopy. Cool air flooded in, and he exhaled deeply. General Lawson approached quickly, her expression a mix of pride and disbelief. Captain Cross, she said, I watched a Dominion cruiser vanish on my tactical display. I still don't know how to process it. Ryland stepped down from the cockpit, legs unsteady. Helios worked. Barely. Kyra Mendez pushed through the gathering crowd. She looked at the fighter, then at him. You fired it at full charge? Ryland, that chamber should have torn this craft apart. It almost did. You're insane, she muttered, but her eyes glistened with relief. Lawson folded her arms. Your insanity saved the planet. Ryland gave a small nod. Glad it was good for something. Soldiers nearby clapped him on the shoulder as they passed. Engineers touched the fighter's hull reverently, studying the warped metal around the cannon. Kyra shook her head slowly. The entire galaxy will hear about this. They already are, Lawson said. Intercepted signals show multiple factions broadcasting the cruiser's collapse. Half the major powers are panicking. The other half want negotiations. And the Dominion? Ryland asked. She paused. Retreating. But not defeated. He expected that. The Dominion never surrendered after a single loss, not even a catastrophic one. Especially not to a species they considered beneath them. Ryland looked through the hangar doors to the void beyond. The blackness seemed different now, not an empty frontier, but a battlefield waiting for the next move. Kyra stood beside him. You know this isn't over. It never was, he replied. Today just bought us time. Lawson joined them, her voice lower. We're detecting a buildup of FTL signatures at the far edge of the system. Multiple Dominion fleets regrouping. Ryland didn't react with fear or dread. Something colder settled inside him, a clarity that came only after facing death and winning. Round 1 is over, he said. They'll be back. He stepped away from the fighter, shoulders squared, gaze fixed on the horizon of stars. And next time, he continued, we won't be underestimated.